Well, believe it or not, the Eagles are only 1 week away from their bye, and it is much needed as the injury bug continues to hit this team hard. Today, we'll go over the injury updates and talk about what it means in terms of opportunity for this upcoming weekend. Also, one Eagles young defensive stud maybe had the best game in all of the NFL this season, and Vic Fangio made one adjustment this past weekend that made all of the difference, and today we'll hear from him on what his strategy is moving forward. But welcome on into A to Z Philly. I'm RB. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you enjoy the content. You guys and gals have been absolutely killing it. Thank you to everybody who's been on this journey with us, and it would mean all of the world if you could go down below and hit that big old red subscribe button if you do enjoy this content as we continue to pump it out. I want to start off with the NFC landscape, okay? The NFL has been very strange this season. A lot of teams you thought would be greater in the dumpster. A lot of teams you thought would be are on fire right now. The Vikings are 3-0 with Sam Darnold. You have the Niners in last place. The Panthers were 0-2. They benched their quarterback. Andy Dalton goes absolutely insane. Look at the NFC East. Cowboys are in last place. It is a beautiful sight. People thought I was crazy. They laughed at me a couple weeks ago when I said the Commanders could end up coming in second behind the Eagles. Still very early in the season. But I watched that game last night. Jaden Daniels set a rookie record, 92% completion. He is the real deal. The Commanders look pretty good, and it's going to be an interesting season. I think the next couple of weeks will hopefully level things off, but it's been interesting so far, to say the least. I want to start it off with a couple really cool stats. Stats of the day here on A to Z Philly. Number one, Quinyon Mitchell, who's had a really impressive start to his rookie campaign. Quinyon was targeted 5 times as the primary defender by the Saints, most of any Eagles player in the secondary. Slay was targeted 2 times. Carr went 1 for 2 with 9 yards. But against Quinyon, Derek Carr only went 3 for 5, but with 29 yards. Quinyon did a really good job, didn't let up the big play, and he's let up a few here and there, but overall, I think he's been pretty locked down, and I think he looks like the future CB1 of this team, a real leader. Also, I want to talk about another hidden gem in Zach Bond. I mean, this guy came over. We had no expectation, and honestly, he reminds me a lot of TJ Edwards. He has that sneaky aggressiveness, hard hitter, aggressive, can play anywhere, can move all around. The guy, every time I see the screen, he's there. Zach Bond is all over the place. He's been such a versatile chess piece for Vic Fangio's defense. He leads the NFL in solo tackles with 27. He has been nothing short of incredible. And after seeing it now for 3 games, I got to admit, I was wrong. Zach Bond is the real deal, right? I liked him coming out of college. I mean, when you're a special teams player for 4 years, I didn't think there was much of you, but man, Zach Bond finally gets the opportunity and he is climbing to the top. And if they can continue to get this kind of play out of Zach Bond, they are in good shape. Even N'Kobe has held his own. And I want to talk about Jalen Carter because he had the highest grade of any defensive tackle this entire season at 93.5. If you go back and watch the tape, Jalen Carter wreaked havoc on every play in that game that he was in. Jalen Carter was everywhere. He was an absolute monster. This is why you drafted Jalen Carter, to be a type of player like this who can make a bunch of Pro Bowls, make a bunch of All-Pros, can be a leader of that defense for years to come. This is the natural talent that we knew Jalen Carter had. It's why how we drafted him last year when he fell all the way down to 9. If Jalen Carter can continue to maintain and sustain this level of play, the Eagles' defensive line will be in much better shape. I know he's young, but he needs to continue to take the lead like he did on Sunday afternoon. Thomas Peterson said this on Twitter, trying not to be hyperbolic about it, but Jalen Carter's tape might be one of the best DT games I've ever seen. He made a drive-changing play on every single drive and multiple plays. He was great, and look, I think Jalen Carter can be a Pro Bowler this year. I think he's going to have to be. Obviously, Jordan Davis needs to step up. Bryce Huff, Brandon Graham's been pretty good as well through the first couple. Nolan Smith, but it all starts and ends with Jalen Carter. He is now the leader on that defensive line, and man, I mean, he finally emerged. He finally came out of that shell. Now, unfortunately for this upcoming weekend, Eagles playing the Bucs. They're coming off a brutal loss. Maybe they're not for real. Maybe they're not legit, and the Eagles will have a chance to beat them, but it's going to be tough to do so. Britton Covey suffered a broken bone in his shoulder. He will miss at least 6 weeks, and Cooper DeJean will now take over with the punt return, so big opportunity for Cooper DeJean, but it's going to suck not having Britton Covey even as a potential 3rd or 4th wide receiver. Darius Slay said he is fine, likely will not miss any games. even though I think Trevor Penning should be suspended for that unnecessary push all the way to the damn bench where he injured him. We'll get to more on that later. Devontae Smith and Lane Johnson suffered concussions and likely will not miss more than one game, which is fine. I'm glad they had the bye week. It is very necessary at this point. But if they can't go this week, then you're going to have the backups in there on the line, right? You're going to see more Fred Johnson, Tyler Steen, who played really well, right? We'll see about Becton. It says no update on Becton, his finger injury that forced him out. So we might see Tyler Steen and Fred Johnson, but now you're going up against an even more ferocious Bucs defensive line. And when it comes to the weapons on offense, right, we want them to scheme open Dallas Goedert. Saquon's a monster, but can they do it for an entire game? It was very awesome to see them go out there and win a drive without all these players, but can they do it for 4 quarters, right? No AJ. If Devontae's out and Britton Covey's out, who are your receivers? I guess it's going to be the Paris Campbell, Jahan Dotson, and John Ross game. So things are going to get a little sticky here if these guys cannot go, but the injury bug is striking brutally for this Eagles team here in the first couple of weeks, something that they didn't really have to deal with back in 2022. And speaking of injuries, apparently the NFL is now trying to do something about this again, but maybe not for all of the teams. Yesterday, Chargers safety Derwin James was suspended by the NFL for repeatedly breaking player safety rules, including in Sunday's game against the Steelers. Derwin James had a very hard hit, but if you go back and watch that play, that wasn't nearly as bad as what Devontae Smith suffered. Meanwhile, after the play, which we didn't even talk about, another Saints player jumps over Devontae Smith, may have even nagged him a little bit in the head there, and then even spit on him. Like, the Eagles offensive line or somebody should have came over and rocked that guy in the head. I think it was number 98 for the Saints. It was just an absolute dirty play, and it's crazy that the NFL goes out and suspends Derwin James, but the Saints have had no repercussions, no consequences, anything yet for multiple dirty plays that they made against the Eagles. Like I always say, the NFL hates Philly. The sports hate Philly. I don't know why. And then we have a clown take of the day from Colin Cowherd. He says, quote, without Saquon Barkley, the Eagles are 0-3. Eagles are that company with a good stock price. Everybody inside the company knows they have major issues, and the public just doesn't know about it yet. They are one bad earnings report away from the whole damn thing unraveling. Maybe he's right. Maybe the Eagles, suffering another brutal loss could derail the team. But what kind of take is that? That makes absolutely no sense. It's just trying to pull people in. Without a team's best player, a team is going to lose. Hallelujah. The light bulb went off. Without Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs would be 0-3. Without CJ Stroud, the Texans would be 0-3. Without Sam Darnold right now, the Vikings would be 0-3. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Who cares? The media constantly tries to bring Philly down. It's annoying. Yes, they have played ugly football. Yes, they have to improve in a lot of areas. Matter of fact, I agree with them. There's a couple things that if went different in that Saints game or even week 1, the Eagles would be 0-3. But to come out here and it feels like, again, they're trying to take shots at Saquon. Saquon has already answered questions the last couple of weeks about being underrated and just feeling like he has a lot to prove. And he does. That's why he's coming out here and running over every single team in the league. Now, Vic Fangio talked about Bryce Huff and the defensive line today. Vic Fangio says that the plan will remain the same. Bryce Huff will continue to rotate in with the other edges. He'll continue to be the starter. But one revelation comes from Sunday above all else, and it is, again, the defensive snap count. Bryce Huff went from 45% in week 1, 52% in week 2, but wait for it. In week 3 against the Saints, he only played 32% of the snaps, which was less than the rest of the defensive line. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you just got to admit when you missed, and Howie Roseman made a blunder. He made a bad mistake. He should have paid Hassan Reddick. I wish they could trade him back and pay him, but now you're paying Bryce Huff. I'm not saying Bryce Huff will add no value to this team, but watching his tape, he can't even get past the tight end. He can't break through a running back. Bryce Huff is struggling. He can't even stay on his feet. It is a troublesome thing at this point. The Eagles need to still address it, right? Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, they picked up the slack. Brandon Graham might be your best pass rusher right now at age 36. But Bryce Huff has been brutal, and I like the fact that Vic Fangio is not one of these coaches that's going to go out there and play a guy just because his name is a certain name or just because his contract amount is a certain amount. He's going to play the best players and the best players that fit his scheme. And in this game against the Saints, Vic Fangio employed a heavy 4-man front in nickel with Milton Williams as the end over Bryce Huff. And it was a notable defensive change, says Jeff McLean. Vic Fangio commented on it, said he used more of it because the game called for it. Oh my gosh. A coordinator that will adjust game to game. You can't go into every matchup. You can't go against every opponent with the same game plan. Vic Fangio understands that. He adjusted. The Saints didn't use a lot of 11 personnel. The Bucs do, near the highest rate in the NFL. Fangio said they use a similar run scheme as the Falcons. Bryce Huff's usage on rundowns may be low again. Fangio confirmed that Huff needed to do a better job holding the edge on an early, long Kamara run. Lastly, Nick Sirianni asked about Saquon's touches this season so far, 73 total. He says, quote, "You do everything you can to win each individual game. Can you imagine if we did not give him the ball as many times as we did and we lost?" Talking to Saquon on how he's feeling, pulling back on him at practice so he's completely fresh. Well, maybe if you had given him a touch in the first quarter, you wouldn't have to worry about, touch after touch after touch. I understand he has a big workload. I understand you don't want him to get hurt. He has an injury history, but in this situation, I agree 100% with Nick Sirianni. You go out, you feed your best weapons, and you leave it all out on the field. Saquon has been MVP level so far. He's been absolutely insane, and I like how they're using him. I think he's shown a lot of burst, physicality. He's been probably one of the best backs, if not the best in the league so far. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I will catch you on the next one. Also, real quick, let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsor of today's video. It is the great BetMGM. Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using our code ATOZPA and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you do not win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to parlays, live bets, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. So sign up today with the bonus code ATOZPA and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you do not win your first bet. Brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Download the app today. Please gamble responsibly.